So the radiation used in radiography is nothing but an electromagnetic waves with higher energy and shorter wavelength, that is higher frequency and shorter wavelength. It can penetrate the object and we get its response on X-ray film. If you concentrate on this diagram shows the various types of waves. In that, X-ray and gamma rays having higher frequency and shorter wavelength. If you consider the general principle of radiography, there are three components basically. First one is X-ray or radiographic source. One is X-ray film, which gives us response or which can be used as a source for predicting or evaluating the component. And the third one is component. The component is placed between the radiation source and the piece film. According to the density and the thickness of material, that part absorb few amount of radiation and remaining amount of radiation get transmitted towards the X-ray film. That X-ray film absorbs that radiation and it after developing that X-ray film we get the response of or the details of component in the form of shadow on X-ray film. So if you concentrate on the diagram, this is the radiographic source, this is the component, and according to the thickness it absorbs the radiation and we get its details on the radiographic film or X-ray film in the form of shadow. If you want to get the detailed information about the component, you need to select the proper radiation source. So in that case, if your component has thin walled area, you need to use a low energy radiation. In case of high thickness walled area, we need to use high energy radiation source. Why? Because if we use high energy radiation source in case of thin walled area, that high energy radiation penetrates more that thin walled area of component and we can't get exact details of that thin walled region of component. So in that case we need to select proper energy source to get detailed exposure of component. Suppose that material contains flaw at any location, and if we use energy radiation in high energy radiation, so in that case we can't get exact details of that flaw because that flaw has lower density, and due to that lower density and high energy radiation, that high energy radiation penetrates thoroughly the component and we can't get the exact details of that flaw. So to get a exact exposure of component in the form of shadow on X-ray sheet, we need to select low energy and high energy radiation as per the thickness of component. If you consider the sensitivity and resolution of this method, flaw orientation plays a very vital role in case of sensitivity and resolution. If you want to get the better exposure of flaw, we need to scan that component in different orientation because it depends on the penetration thickness and flaw thickness. consider here two examples are shown in the diagram. One, that is source is exactly parallel to the component, and the second case whether the component is where the component is inclined to the surface of component. So in that two cases we get different sensitivity from this method. So here, as flaw is exact parallel to the orientation of source, we get its exact details. Suppose your component or the flaw is not properly oriented during the examination, we can't get exact details of flaw which is present inside the component. So as the developed radiograph is a two-dimensional representation of three-dimensional object. Remember, we are examine the three-dimensional object, and after examination we get a radiograph which is two-dimensional one. And here the image is distorted in both size and shape. Why? Because the radiation goes in conical format, in conical direction. At the source its angle is different. When that radiation reaches to the component, its angle is different. Its focus goes on wider. So due to that, image may be distorted in both size and shape compared with the component. So as the position of flaw within the component cannot be determined exactly with single radiograph. Why? Because we can't know the exact orientation of flaw which is presented inside the component. But by taking several radiographs with the beam directed at an object from a different angle for each exposure, it should be possible to determine the exact position of flaw in relation to the thickness of object. So this is the one limitation of radiography technique. We need to conduct several examination of single component from different orientation to get exact location or exact details of flaw according in correspond with the thickness of component. So flaw orientation plays a very vital role. So we can't control the flaw orientation. So to get exact details of flaw, we need to take several examination in different angle. So keep in mind, in ultrasonic testing we can't there is no need to take several examination of a single component, but here to get a proper details of flaw we need to conduct several examination from different angle. So see here, these are the few images which represents the effect of source angle or the radiation propagation angle. So the first image shows that the radiograph which is developed by the radiation which is propagate in 0-degree angle. So see, this is the second radiograph which developed after the penetration of radiation in 10-degree angle. Now see, when the radiation penetrates the object in 20-degree angle, we can't get the details of flaw or crack. This is the radiograph of welding joint. So in first diagram we get the proper details of crack. When the angle goes on increasing, visibility of that crack goes on decreasing. So in that case, we need to conduct several examination from different angle to get the exact details of flaw on radiographic film. So I think it is clear that why it is required to take a several examination from different angle. So previously we have seen the physics behind the radiation. There are two types of rays, that is X-ray and gamma rays, which is the form of microwaves, and these X-ray and gamma rays cannot be influenced by electrical and magnetic field. It cannot be felt, seen or heard by the human being, but it can be diffracted. So this is the small packets of energy which bombarded on the component, and it get, when that component is penetrated by the radiation, we get its details on X-ray sheet. So next point we have discussed, that is properties of X-ray and gamma ray. So these are the waves which cannot be heard, cannot be felt and cannot be seen by human being. These waves travels in a straight line. Their path cannot be changed by electrical and magnetic field. They can be diffracted, refracted to a small degree at interface between two different material. Why? Because there is a difference in between the density of two material. So it is possible to diffract, to refract these radiations. So their degree of penetration depends on the energy of radiation as well as the density of material. They have enough energy to ionize matter and can damage or destroy living cells. So it is hazardous to the human being. So proper care should be taken during the examination of component with the radiography, because the radiography damages human being or human cells. So proper precautions should be taken during the examination. So radiation sources, there are different sources. Basically two are X-ray and gamma ray sources. So in the industry, basically X-ray and gamma ray sources are widely used. When X-ray radiations are used, it is called as a X-ray radiography, and when that gamma rays are used, it is called as a gamma ray radiography. So these two pictures are the representation of X-ray examination and gamma ray equipment. So the very high frequency and shorter wavelength radiations listed as X-ray and gamma ray is the only form of electromagnetic radiations which will penetrate solid and opaque material. If you see the diagram, this is the portion of electromagnetic spectrum, and in that diagram three parameters are mentioned. First one wavelength, second one frequency, and next one photon energy, which is shown in the notation of H into nu, and the unit of that photon energy is electron voltage, electron volt. So the electromagnetic waves can be regarded as a series of quanta or of photons, and the energy of photons varies with frequency of radiation. So the energy of photons varies with the frequency of radiation, and the relationship between the frequency of photon energy is given by Planck's quantum relationship. So these three parameters, that is wavelength, frequency and photon energy, have a particular relation amongst them. So if you consider this diagram, X-ray having lower frequency as compared to gamma ray, its wavelength is somewhat shorter than the gamma ray. So the relationship between the frequency and photon energy is the Planck's quantum relationship. So here in this relation, E is equal to h into nu. So where E is photon energy, that is product of h into nu, that nu is frequency and h is the Planck constant, and the value of Planck constant is 6.625 into 10 raised to minus 34 joule second. So keep these values in mind and this relation in mind, because this relation gives us photon energy or amount of photon energy. If you consider what is meant by EV, that is electron volt, it is a unit of energy. It is a one type of unit of energy, and is the energy required to move the one electron through a potential difference of 1 volt. Again I will repeat, it is the energy required to move one electron through a potential difference of 1 volt. So 1 EV is equal to 1.602 into 10 raised to minus 19 joule. This is the relationship between the EV and joule. So if you consider here in this figure, the photon energies for radiation of different frequencies are shown. Means according to frequency, its electron volt or photon energy varies. So here we can say that the X-ray which have the lower frequency than the gamma ray which has lower electron volt or photon energy, and gamma rays having higher photon energy. If you consider the difference between the X-ray and gamma ray, the particular fundamental difference is the X-ray are formed by bombarding a metal target material with a stream of high velocity electron within an X-ray tube. So X-ray can be generated artificially by bombarding a stream of high velocity electrons on metal target. So keep in mind, X-rays are artificially generated by bombarding a high velocity electron on a metal target. In other hand, the gamma rays are emitted as a part of decay process of radioactive substance. Means radioactive substance as it is can be used to generate the gamma rays. So radium is the natural source of radioactive rays or radiation. Then iridium is also used. So such substance can be used as a gamma ray sources, as a and as a decay of its self substance, radioactive gamma rays can be generated. So it is not a artificial generation of radiation. So in case of X-ray, we can control the amount of X-ray radiation, but here, as it is a process of decay of substance, it is very difficult to control the amount of radiation. But with the help of few mechanism, it can be controlled afterwards. But if you consider only substance which is naturally emits the radiation, so it is very difficult to control the emission of radiation. So let us discuss regarding production of X-ray. So as I mentioned earlier, X-ray can be produced by establishing, or the X-rays can be produced by bombarding a metal target with a beam of high velocity electron. So here, sorry. So X-rays are produced by establishing a very high voltage between two electrodes called as anode and cathode. If you concentrate on image, one end is anode, another end is cathode, and high voltage is produced in between these two anodes and X-ray will produced. So to prevent arcing, there is a loss of energy ultimately, anode and cathode are located inside a vacuum tube which is protected by metal housing. So this is an actual construction of X-ray tube, very simple construction. That is, two electrodes are placed in a vacuum container and which is metal protected. If you consider the basic principle behind the production of X-ray, so concentrate on this animation. That cathode emits electron, that electron attracted towards the anode, and X-rays are emitted, or energy is transmitted through the window and it penetrates the object. So this is the representation of production of X-ray. If you consider the circuit diagram of X-ray tube, here major components of X-ray tube is that one is cathode which emits the electron, another is anode which is considered as a target, and these two components are placed inside the evacuated tube. So see, this is the evacuated tube, and inside the evacuated tube, one is metal target which is considered as an anode, and another is a filament which generates a electron beam, or which transmit the electron beam towards the metal target and which generates X-ray beam. So here the cathode is a filament coil of tungsten wire, and electric current at a low voltage flows through the cathode filament to heat it to glow and stimulate the thermionic emission of electrons. So see here, this is the cathode filament only. Filament is act as a cathode, and when an electric current passes through this coil at a low voltage, that filament heats up and glow, and it emits the electron, and that emitted electrons targeted towards the metal part, that is anode, and when that electron beam bombarded on that metal target, which is anode, X-rays are generated, and that X-rays passes through the window of evacuated tube. Here a large electrical potential difference exists between cathode and anode target to accelerate the anodes. So here a large electrical potential difference is there in between the anode and cathode, which accelerate the electrons from cathode to anode. So consider the working principle here. This is the one filament which is considered as a cathode. The metal target which is considered as an anode. When electric current passes through this filament heats up and glow, an electron transmitted from this filament, that electron attracted towards anode target, which is a metal, and when that electron beam bombarded on that metal target, X-rays are produced. So here if you consider this circuit diagram, a focusing coil is placed close to the cathode, and this acts an electromagnetic lens to focus a thermionic emission into a fine beam aimed at a center of anode target material. So these are the two focusing coils which are placed near to the cathode, and these focusing coils act as a electromagnetic lens, and which will help to focus the emission of electron towards the targeted anode. So here anode comprises a small piece of target metal, means it is made up of a metal, and which is usually tungsten embedded in a mass of copper. So anode is a piece of tungsten which is embedded in a copper. Why tungsten? Because it is a highly efficient emitter of X-ray, because we need to generate more amount of X-ray, so that here tungsten is used because of its highly efficient emitter. If you consider its melting point, tungsten having melting point equal to 3380 degrees Celsius. So too high melting point is there if you consider the tungsten. So as energy is transmitted from that metal target, when that electron beam is bombarded on that anode, heat is generated at that place. So we need to consider a high melting point metal as a anode target. So here tungsten withstand high temperature generated by impinging electrons. So as electrons are bombarded on the metal target temperature goes on increasing. So to control or to withstand the high temperature, we need to consider high melting point material, so that tungsten is used here because of its high melting point as a 3380 degrees Celsius. So the tungsten target material is embedded in a copper block which is water cooled or oil cooled. So as temperature is high at that location, cooling system is provided to control the temperature of anode target. The heat energy generated at that place can be radially dissipated by conduction through the copper. So as tungsten is embedded in a copper material, and this embedded copper and tungsten provided with water or oil cooled system to dissipation of heat properly to the surrounding. So here the X-ray tube envelope may be made up of glass. So it may be a glass, it may be a ceramic material such as alumina or metal or a combination of material. So as it is a radiographic process, the envelope may be considered as a glass membrane or ceramic membrane or a metallic membrane or a combination of material. So here the majority of X-ray tube made these days are ceramic or metals. Glass is not widely used nowadays. Ceramic and metal constructions can be widely used nowadays. So the tube envelope must possesses good structural strength at high temperature in order to withstand the combined effect of radiated heat from the anode and the force exerted by the atmospheric pressure on the evacuated chamber. So as we already mentioned that the two components, that is anode and cathode, are placed in an evacuated tube. So it is vacuum, that is a negative pressure inside the tube. So atmospheric pressure ultimately greater than the inside pressure. So while selecting the material of envelope, we consider the pressure difference or the force exerted by the atmospheric pressure as well as the high temperature developed at anode end. So according to these two conditions, that is negative pressure inside the tube and high temperature inside the tube at anode end, we need to consider metal or ceramic material as a envelope raw material. So if you consider the shape of envelope, it may be vary with tube voltage rating and the nature of anode and cathode design. So according to the shape and size of anode and cathode, that shape of envelope tube can be changed. In the previous diagram it is elliptical one. So if you consider here, one window is provided at anode end. That window is made up of low atomic number element to minimize the X-ray absorption. So here at the periphery of envelope, one window is provided. That window is nothing but the gate of X-ray. From that window, X-ray transmitted towards the component, and the metal or the material which is used for development of this window, which should be have the minimized X-ray absorption rating. So usually a 3 to 4 mm thickness beryllium is generally used here. Consider here or remember, 3 to 4 mm thickness of beryllium sheet is used as a window of X-ray. If you consider the overall construction, the X-ray tube is contained within a metal housing which is well insulated to give a protection from high voltage electric shock, and the housing usually possesses a high voltage plug and socket which will permit a rapid disconnection of electrical cables. So it is very important point. We need to disconnect the source very rapidly. So to do it, high voltage plug and sockets are provided along with this tube. So this is the overall construction of X-ray tube. Cathode at one end, anode at one end, electron beam transmitted from cathode and it bombarded on anode. These focusing coils act as a electromagnetic lens. This overall assembly is placed inside the evacuated tube. Evacuated tube is subjected to high temperature as well as atmospheric pressure, so that it is developed with the help of ceramic or metal. Anode subjected to high temperature, so that anode is made up with the help of tungsten material because of its higher melting point. To dissipate the heat properly, that tungsten material is embedded in a copper material, and these embedded materials can be provided with a water cooling system or oil cooling system for proper heat dissipation. One window is provided at the evacuated envelope, which acts as a gate of X-ray, and this window is made up with the help of material which has minimum X-ray absorption rating. Usually here beryllium is used, and that beryllium is having 3 to 4 mm thickness only. So consider this point while discussing the construction of X-ray tube. So if you consider the orientation of that anode is inclined one. If you consider the previous diagram, here the anode is shaped as a inclined surface to orient the X-ray beam towards the component. So here, when the high voltage is applied across the tube between cathode and anode, the electrons are accelerated across the evacuated space to strike the target. So the electron beam is focused so that it impinges a small area of target, this small area being termed as focal spot. So consider here, this is the focal spot. So as electron beam bombarded on that tungsten material, as it is inclined one, that X-ray beam directed towards the object, and the effective area of X-ray which is scanned one, that effective area is considered as a focal spot. So the smaller focal spot on the target, the sharper will be the radiographic image that can be obtained. Means if focal spot is very small, whatever amount of X-ray radiations are there, that will be concentrated at that particular smaller area of focal spot, and we will get sharper image of component on radiographic film. Suppose that focal spot is too wide, then whatever amount of X-rays are emitted from that anode, these get spread or divergent or diverted on the wide range of focal spot, so that we can get a blur image of radiograph. So to get sharper image of component on radiograph, smaller focal spot will help for this. generation of radiograph, that is sharper radiograph. However, here the extent of anode heating which occurs prevents the use of too small focal spot. So if you extend the heating of anode here, it will penetrate more the component and we can't get the exact details of component because of the extension of heating time. So time is also important while inspecting the component with the help of radiographic energy. So the anode and target design is a compromise between the conflicting requirement of long target life and the maximum radiographic definition. So here time is very important. So design of anode and the inspection time plays a very vital role. So in many X-ray tube design, the face of anode is inclined at an angle to the electron beam. So the electron beam is focused in such a way that it would give a small square focal spot on the plane of normal, that is normal to the electron beam. So as it is normal to the electron beam, it will concentrate at the square region of focal spot and we get sharper image of component on the radiograph. So if you consider the parameters of process of this production of X-ray, there are three parameters which are very important. One is filament current, next one is tube voltage, and another one is tube current. So according to these three components, a change in filament current will alter the temperature of filament, which will change the rate of thermionic emission of electron. Means if you consider the filament current, it affects on emission of electron. If you consider the tube voltage, increased tube voltage which increases the potential difference between the cathode and anode and ultimately will increase the energy of electron beam, and hence it will increase the energy and penetrating power of X-ray beam which is produced. So the second point, that is tube voltage, if you increase the tube voltage, it ultimately will increase the energy of electron, and as energy of electron increases, it ultimately increases the penetrating power of X-ray beam. And if you consider the third variable, that is tube current, that tube current is the magnitude of electron flow between cathode and anode. What is tube current? It is the magnitude of electron flow between the cathode and anode. And this tube current is directly related to the filament temperature. Means if you increase the tube current, filament temperature will goes on increasing. If you reduce the tube current, we get lower temperature at filament, that is cathode. So these three are very important parameter of X-ray tube which plays a very vital role in the generation of X-ray, and these three parameters are responsible for the quality of X-ray beam.